How far would you go to make an impact in the world? This fall, 10 incredible entrepreneurs will visit our campus to tell their stories and share the steps they took to be catalysts for change. The 2021 Entrepreneur Leadership Series, the most valuable one-credit class you will ever take.
So give us your name and just tell us the principle you learned, why it was important.
Okay. So my name is Adam Smith, and I just absolutely loved the presentation from Martin Frey last week. It was really, really impactful. And the way he talked about like overcoming our Everest and trying to figure out what we're doing and why we're doing it and our real purpose in life and how we can overcome, and just everything that he did, all the amazing things that he did in his life, pushing him towards that purpose of getting the 7 summits and getting the 7 C's, that changed something inside of me, and gave me something that I really am now just pushing for in my life. It helped me understand my own purpose and where kind of my interests intersect, and now I have a really good path that I'm on, and I have an understanding of what I want to do. And it was because of that presentation and the principles that he taught. So,
thanks, Adam. Let's give it up for Adam here. Okay, let's have one more. Okay, come on up. So just give us your name and
tell us what you've learned. So I'm Katie Oldham, and I also really liked last week's presentation. I talked to a lot of friends about it. But one of the quotes that made a big difference for me is he said it's important to actually grow from adversity rather than just recover from it. I feel like a lot of times it's easy to just kind of bounce back from something hard and be where you are, but it's important to take disappointments and turn them into opportunities and like work to grow from that experience. So I loved that.
thank you very much. Okay, a couple more things. How many of you are in the Kane College of the Arts? If you're studying music, theater, design, anyone here? No one? Raise them high if you are. Don't be ashamed. That's a cool school. Okay, so we were just given 15 scholarships for students in the arts to go through our minor in entrepreneurship, and we're starting to collect names. So if you have any interest, you would receive a very attractive scholarship for the spring or the summer or both to take the 4 courses in the minor in entrepreneurship. So come up afterwards, visit with me or with Andy or Russell up here if you have some interest, okay? So Amanda is going to introduce Dave Durocher, but let me just say a couple of things. In the business that I owned, we built retail stores, and we built about 80 stores, and we worked with dozens of contractors. And we were always disappointed. The contractors' bids would come in late. They would always exceed their bid. They wouldn't show up some days. They would open the stores late. And we just accepted that as part of the process of working in the construction industry. So last year, Mary and I decided we wanted to remodel our basement, and we called some contractors. The first one came and said, yeah, I can do it for sure. I'll get the bid to you, and he disappeared and never called again. The second one, the same thing. Yeah, we can do it, but we can't start till this date, but I'll get the bid to you. I'll call you back. Never showed up. So I called the Other Side Academy, which has a construction company, and they said, we would absolutely love to do that work. We'll be over there this week, at this date, at this time. We'll have the bid the next day. And we hired them, and Jordan, the construction manager, called me every day. Hey, Mike, here's what we're doing today. Sorry, we can't come today, but we'll be there tomorrow. The painter's going to come at 3 o'clock. And he called me almost every single day, and they finished the project early, which, I'd never seen before. And so now what I say to people is, if you want to get something done, you got to hire ex-convicts, okay? It was the best construction company we'd ever worked with, and they're part of the Other Side Academy, one of their businesses. So you're going to love David's message. So let's have Amanda come up now and introduce David Durocher.
Okay. All right. Dave was arrested for the first time when he was 13 years old. And by the time he was 38, he had been to prison 4 times for a total of 15 years. And when he was faced with a 29-year sentence, he pleaded guilty and was able to go to Delancey Delancey Street in Los Angeles for 8 years. And while he was there, he was able to become the managing director. He doubled revenues in their training schools businesses and tripled their overall earnings. And today he's here, and he's a co-founder of and managing director of the Other Side Academy down in Salt Lake City. And he's helped countless ex-convicts regain their dignity, and he's here today with his wife, Mandy. And so if you can welcome them here.
Good evening. So I want to talk about hope. Hope is the medicine. Hope is the medicine that allows the forlorn to smile. It gives hope to people that otherwise wouldn't have any hope in their lives. And as I tell you my story, the reason why I land on hope is for about 38 years of my life, I didn't have any hope, none whatsoever. I lived in a dark place. My life was just a train wreck constantly. It was really difficult to navigate, all because of the choices that I was making. I wasn't one of the kids that graduated from high school and decided to go to college like many of you did. That it doesn't mean I didn't try, because I did. It's just I never made it to the classroom because I was stuck in my car in the parking lot getting high. Sorry? Because I was stuck in my car getting high. And the reason why I want to talk about hope, and before I get into it, I want to go backwards and take you guys on a journey. Can I tell you a story? Yes. So my story really began when I was 12 years old. I was the kind of kid, my dad particularly was a drinker. He was an alcoholic. And he rode motorcycles, dirt bikes, and he always had his friends over to the house. And Dad didn't like sit me down and go, here's how you crack open a Budweiser, and here's how you drink. But I'd go to the refrigerator, I'd get the first beer, I'd pop it open, take it to him or one of his friends, I'd take the first drink. And then at the end of the party, I'd always clean up the mess and I'd take the last drink. Dad wasn't teaching it to me per se, but I was learning it from him nonetheless. So I started drinking at a young age. And then soon I was coming home from school and I would steal booze out of my dad's alcohol bottle and I'd replace it with water. Because, Dad will never find out if I do that, right? And after a few times of doing that, he'd come home from work, he'd have a few drinks, and he wasn't getting the desired effect he was looking for, and he quickly realized I was. As you can imagine, at that age, that conversation did not go well. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, a lot of all of that stuff. Dad was a little bit verbally abusive at times, but I was like Dennis the Menace. I was a difficult kid to handle. I don't know how I would have dealt with me either. But not long after that, I started smoking pot, right? I'd go buy a dime bag of pot, and I would roll a few joints out of it, and I'd go to school and I'd sell a couple. I was literally an entrepreneur. Do we know what an entrepreneur is, right? I was that at a young age. Now, I wasn't doing it going, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to sell drugs. That was never the case. But that's how I was supporting my habit. But not long after I started smoking pot, I started doing cocaine. And that really is where the wheels fell off. That's where the wheels started to get loose, if you will. And at 13 years old, could you imagine doing cocaine at 13 years old and trying to navigate your way through life as a teenager while you're addicted to cocaine? I was the kind of kid, in order to support my habit, I had to steal everything you could possibly imagine. I got into my dad's wallet, took out the safe combination, got into the safe, stole his money. I would be the kid upstairs looking out my window, waiting for the neighbors to leave. And when they drive away, I'd go downstairs, go out my sliding glass door, go up over the block wall and into their house and ransack their house and take whatever I could to support my habit. I manipulated my parents, neighbors, friends, family, whatever I could do to support my habit. It was a really difficult time in my life and a really difficult way to get through my teenage years. And when I was going to high school, I was addicted the whole time I was there. I was the kind of kid that would go to school. And I'd sit in the back of the class, like right back there. And while the teacher was up here at the board, I would take a vial. This is not a vial of cocaine, it's a chapstick. I would take the vial of cocaine out of my pocket, and when the teacher wasn't looking, I'd pour it between the pages of my school book. Whether it was math, science, history, it didn't matter. And then when the teacher would turn around and go back to the board, I'd sit back there and I'd pull the big pen apart, and I'd lean over in class and I'd snort cocaine. Right off the pages of my school book. That's how bad it was for me. Somehow I managed to get through high school nonetheless. Getting through high school wasn't that difficult, and I graduated, but I barely graduated, but I did nonetheless. But when I graduated from high school, I went from cocaine to methamphetamine. Now, I mentioned earlier that the wheels were getting loose. They fell off now. When I started doing meth, I thought I found God. That was my train of thought. It was a lot cheaper. I stayed up a lot longer, all of those things. And I stopped stealing from my habit, and I started doing something else. I would buy some and sell some, kind of like I did when I was younger with pot. Buy some more, sell some more. There's that entrepreneurial gene again, right? But it was never my intention to be a drug dealer. I did not graduate high school, and when my friends were getting ready to leave, go, hey, good luck to you when you go to college. I'm going to go deal drugs. That was never the case. But I started buying more and selling more, buying more and selling more. And then in that world, it can get violent at times. So now I'm buying drugs. I've got a few guns, and what do you think happened next? Started getting arrested. So I'm dealing drugs and guns, and I start getting arrested. And when I got arrested, it wasn't the first time, but when I got arrested for those charges, I went to prison for 2 years. I got out for 59 days. The day I got out, I was on my way back. 59 days later, I got busted again, went back to prison for 5 years. Got out, same behaviors, dealing drugs and all that entails, went back to prison for 6 years. Got out, went back to prison for 10 years. So it was a 2-year prison term, a 5-year prison term, a 6-year prison term, and a 10-year prison term, with very little time out in between those prison terms. Make no mistake about it, the day I got out, I was on my way back. And as you can imagine, what do you think happened after that 10-year prison sentence? I went back. So about 4 months later, I'm at a house in Huntington Beach. I'm weighing up some drugs. That's what I was doing at the time because that's who I thought I was. And I'm looking out the window and I see a helicopter hovering really high in the sky. I don't think much of it, but usually when you see a helicopter in the city, it's floating around, it's just kind of patrolling the city, correct? This helicopter was sitting way, way up there, and it just sat there, right? Just there for a couple of hours. And as I got done and I'm getting ready to leave, I look back out the window and I see the helicopter still there, and I thought, nah, not for me. Go outside, get in my car, leave, and the cops were everywhere. They were waiting for me to leave the house because they didn't have a warrant to go inside. And I had told my friends and everybody else I knew in the drug world that if I ever got red lighted again, I wasn't going to stop. I'm taking them on a high-speed chase, and if I die during that high-speed chase, so be it, because I don't want to go back to prison for the rest of my life. So that's what I did. I took off. The cops were everywhere. It was a cacophony of just loud noise. I could hear them telling me to pull over. The helicopter that was way over had come all the way down, shining its spotlight in the car, and I took them on a decent high-speed chase. I had complete wanton disregard for public safety, displacing cars, going up on sidewalks, going through red lights, and I was hoping to get to a bridge. There was water underneath that bridge in Southern California, so I could throw everything out the window into the water, and if they found it, they'd have to prove that's what I threw. That was my train of thought. I never made it to the bridge. When I got to the corner of Magnolia and Atlantic, and that probably doesn't mean much to you, but in Southern California, in Huntington Beach, that was the corner. I'm getting ready to make the left-hand turn. As I'm approaching it, the cops have it blocked off, and I have a decision to make. I either stop and let them arrest me, or I go through that roadblock, use my car as a battering ram, and hope that they shoot and take me out, and I opted for B. I went through that roadblock, and I displaced those cars, and I literally hunkered down at the same time in my vehicle, knowing what was coming, but they never shot me, even though I used my car as a weapon. And when I made that left-hand turn, the cop closest to me did the pit maneuver, which is the pursuit intervention technique, and he rammed my back in, and he spun me out and up on an embankment and left the car completely undrivable. As you can imagine, the cops approached the vehicle at gunpoint, they pulled me out, and they commenced to give me one of the worst beatings I had ever taken. The last thing I remember before I passed out was someone saying, "Stop, stop, we're going to kill him." Up on that embankment, there's a strip mall there, so there's people there watching, and they had me, so they had to stop. And when I woke up in jail after coming out of the infirmary and I went to court the first time, my deal was 29 years. Let that sink in, 29 years. Now, after fighting my case for a number of months, some of the ancillary charges had fallen off, and it came down to 22 years. And for about the next year and a half, every time I went to court, it was 22 years, 22 years. And the judge made it very clear that, Mr. Durocher, whether you cop a plea and plead out or whether you go to trial, we've got you for the rest of your life. 22 years is your deal. Get out of my courtroom. And I kept postponing and firing the public defender and doing what I could to buy some time. And I was hoping to get that sentence down to something manageable, like 15. 2 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. 15 made sense to me. And if that judge would have acquiesced and gave me the opportunity to take 15 years, I wouldn't be standing here today. God knows where my life would have turned out. It would have changed the whole trajectory. But he didn't. He was resolute in his position and steadfast in that 22 years. But there's a place called Delancey Street. Anybody heard of Delancey Street? Some hands. Any hands, Delancey Street? It's a 2-year program for people just like me, people who have been a drug addict for a long time, people who have lived a criminal lifestyle for a long time. There's only 5 of them in the country, and I wrote them, and they interviewed me, and they accepted me. But when I went to court, when I got that acceptance letter, Judge Pacheco said, oh, hell no. You are not Delancey Street material. I am not sending you to Delancey Street. You are getting 22 years. Now get out of my courtroom. So I go back to my cell, and as you can imagine, I'm pretty dejected. I'm scared for the first time in my life, because going to prison didn't scare me first. And it wasn't that I was scared to go to prison, I was scared to go die there. And I had already survived there for many prison terms. So I decided to write the judge a letter, because I'm not very busy in my cell at night. I sat down and wrote him 4 pages, front and back, on legal pad. And never once did I tell that judge that he was wrong in his assessment of me, because he wasn't. But at the end of that letter, I said, Your Honor, what do you have to lose? If you send me to Delancey Street and I get kicked out or I split, you can lock me up for the rest of my life. Or the next time you see me, it's because I'm coming back in to say thank you for the opportunity. And I wasn't the only one that wrote. Some of my parents wrote, and a few other people wrote the judge. And when I went to court about 6 weeks later, in California, I'm in a little cage. It's just like it's smaller than a phone booth. Some of you might not remember what a phone booth looks like, but it's smaller than a phone booth. It's a metal cage, and I'm like an animal in there. But that's who I had become. Ankle irons, waist irons, handcuffs. And Judge Pacheco said, Mr. Durocher, against my better judgment, I'm going to give you the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to let you go to Delancey Street, but you're going to plead guilty today to all of your charges. You're signing a deal for 22 years. When you get kicked out or you split, I've got you for the rest of your life. Could you imagine for 14, 15 months I'm fighting my case and all I'm hearing is 22 years, 22 years, 22 years. I just went to court. The judge said he's going to let me out to go to a program. Now, have any of you ever gotten really good news or really bad news, totally unexpected? You know that vertigo feeling where you kind of get dizzy when you hear like there's a death in the family or something wonderful's happened and you're like, did I just hear that? I'm sitting in this cage all handcuffed going, I'm getting out of jail. The judge is going to let me out of jail to go to Delancey Street. The next morning he did. When I went to Delancey Street, it's a 2-year program. That's a long time, right? 2 years. I stayed 8.5 years. 2 years to beat a 22-year prison sentence, and 6.5 more because I fell in love with the process. And for the first time in my life, I fell in love with Dave. And what I mean by that is, I realized after a couple of years that my life had meaning, it had purpose. I could live outside of Delancey Street the way I was living there. I could actually probably at some point become a productive member in the community, but I needed more time. We've all heard of the bell curve, right? So it's a 2-year program. I stayed 8. What does that tell you about me and the bell curve? I was way down at the bottom. But I stayed 8.5 years for a number of reasons. 2 to beat the sentence, 6.5 more because I fell in love with the process, and about 3.5 years into my stay, Mimi Silbert came down from San Francisco. We had a meeting. She's the president of Delancey Street, and she says, Dave, how much longer will you stay? I said, I don't know, Mimi. I just gave another commitment. What are you asking me? She says, how much longer are you willing to stay? I said, I don't know, Mimi. I'm here. I just gave another year commitment. She says, will you stay 5 more years? And I thought about my life, my whole life, up until the time I got there. All the destruction I had done, all the people I had hurt, all the damage I had done, just everything. And I thought about it for about a minute, and I said, yeah, Mimi, I'll stay. And she says, are you sure? I said, yeah, are you? I had no idea what she had in mind for me. I had no idea what her plans were. A couple of months later, she comes back down, brings me in the office, and asks me if I'd be willing to manage the LA facility. The Delancey Street, Los Angeles facility is an old Hilton hotel. 250 residents at any given time, 15 vocational training schools that generate all of the revenue. They don't take any government funds. We generated all of our own revenue. It was hands down the best decision I ever made, not just in going, but in being willing to stay for a long time. And I managed the LA facility for the last 5 years that I was there, doubling revenues, all kinds of stuff. It was incredible. Here's a guy that had spent his life on the streets, in jails, in prisons, running a multi-million-dollar organization and not getting paid for it. Nothing. I didn't get paid anything. We got wham, like every 30 days you got like wham's an acronym for walking around money. I think I got $80 a month, to go to Starbucks or go to the movies or something like that. But I didn't get a paycheck. It wouldn't have worked if I did. I loved what I was doing, and I wanted to continue to help people get from where I once was to where I had gotten. So I stayed that 8.5 years. When I left in 2014, and graduated. I got my Class A license. I'm driving I'm driving a truck. I'm hauling heavy equipment. I'm making prevailing wages, really good money. And then I went from Southern California up to the Dakotas. Has anybody heard of the Bakken? That's where they're doing all the oil fracking. I go up there, and I'm making what I refer to as stupid money. And the reason why I call it that is here's a guy that had been out of the workforce since the 80s. I go up to the Bakken, I work 31 days in a row, and I make $17,000 legally, right? And the next month it's 12, and the next month it's like 13, and I'm making all this money, and the cops can't take it this time. And I'm putting it all in the bank, right? And I learned two things. Making money is fun. Who can argue that, right? Making money is fun. But saving lives is rewarding. I missed Delancey Street. I missed helping people. But Delancey Street doesn't have any paid positions. So it's not like I could go back and reapply and be an employee there. So I came back to Southern California and started doing a lot of small presentations for different programs around the Southern California area. And then I got a God shot. Joseph Grenny, our founder, Tim Stay, our CEO, Charlotte Baker, who was in Delancey Street for 38 years, they had reached out to her and told her that they'd like to start a replication here. Does anybody know Joseph Grenny? Anybody read the book, Crucial Conversations? He's the author. I see a couple hands go up back there. Right? Joseph Grenny and Tim Stay, CEO and founder. They weren't that yet, but they reached out and asked if I'd be willing to come here and do this. So over the phone, we're talking, and then they flew to Los Angeles. We met at LA Live, and we were sitting in a restaurant. And when we sat down, I looked at both of them and said, don't ask me anything. Who in the heck are you? What's the genesis of thought behind this? What makes you think you can, and why would you? And about an hour later, I knew I was in the presence of great men. A couple hours later, when the meal was over, they said, are you willing to come to Utah to help us get a replication of Delancey Street started in Salt Lake City? I said, absolutely, but not if you quit in 6 months when it gets hard. So 6 years ago, we came to Salt Lake City, scoured the landscape all over the Wasatch Valley looking for a property. Anybody from Salt Lake City in here? So you guys know where the Armstrong Mansion Bed and Breakfast is at? 7th East, 1st South? That's one of the first buildings that we found, one of the first buildings that we saw. We looked at about a dozen others, right? And ended up circling back and buying that building. We now have 6 buildings on that corner. We now have about 100 students living on property. And when you think of programs, I'm going to explain to you right now what the Other Side Academy is, but I need to preface it with what it isn't. So when you think of treatment centers for former addicts and former criminals, what's the length of time usually? What is it? For a program? Yeah, not maybe in a therapeutic community, but what's the model we use a lot now? What's the length of time? 30, 60, 90 days. Are we all familiar with that? Right, that's most programs, 30, 60, or 90 days. And the first question they ask you when you get there is, how much money do you have? None? Go die. No, they don't say go die. But if you get there as a drug addict and a criminal and you have money, you wouldn't be there because you're not done getting high yet because you still have money. And if you're a drug addict and a criminal, you don't have that kind of money anyway. Almost nobody self-pays when you're in the condition that I was in. So when they ask him, how much money do you have? If he doesn't have any, he can't stay. Let's say he does, because mom and dad are sitting next to him and they've mortgaged their home 4 times over already. And they've got $8,000, but it's $20,000 a month. They count out the money, we accept him, we say he can stay, but since he's got $8,000, here's 12 penicillin, hope that works. The amount of help you get is contingent upon the amount of money you have. That's the system, that's the model that we've been using in this country for decades, and I see some people's head shaking. And it's terrible. It's a broken system. Not that it doesn't work for some, but it doesn't work for many. Then here's the tragedy. When he gets there and he pays, whether it's $8,000 or whether it's $30,000, on day 29, what are they asking him to do? Pack your bags, you got to go tomorrow. And on day 30, what are they asking him to do? Go on, get. And why are they asking him to leave? Why? The money's gone. The funding's run out. What if he's not ready? What are the odds that a guy like me, after 27 years of drug addiction, 20 years in and out of the criminal justice system, can go to a 30-day program and be ready on day 30? If you think that's possible, you need more help than I do. Or you need more help than I did. Right? But that's the model we've been using for so long. And it doesn't work very well. And, you know, the 30-day model actually started at 28 days. And there's no science anywhere. Do your research. You won't find any science that said 28 days is the optimal time. The reason why it's 28 days and it just got bumped to 30 is because 50 years ago when it all started, basically, the average American had 2 weeks vacation, 2 weeks sick pay, 28 days. That was the average program time. And it hasn't changed much since then. It's gotten far more expensive, and in some cases you can stay 30, 60, 90 days and some aftercare, but by and large it doesn't work very well. And they focus on a couple of things, primarily drug addiction. At the Other Side Academy, we are 2.5 years long. I want you to juxtapose that against the 30, 60, 90-day model. We're 2.5 years long, residential. Is that a long time? We're free. If you walk through our front door, you take a seat on the bench, we interview you, and we accept you, you start right then. You need nothing. We take no money from the city, the county, the state, the federal government, rich mommy and daddy, Medicaid, nothing. What's the question? What's the question? Wasn't sure if she was awake, but she is. How do we do it? We run our own social enterprises. Who's used the Other Side Movers? Anybody? Kathy and Mike, of course, they're great supporters. Kathy works at the Other Side Academy. But we have our own social enterprises. Let me tell you why that's important. Our moving company, when you get a chance, go online. The Other Side Movers. We are the #1 rated moving company in the entire state of Utah. #1 rated moving company in the entire state of Utah. Right? We do between 250 and 300 moves a month. Now, if you were going to start a social enterprise, right, to generate revenue underneath a nonprofit umbrella, ran exclusively by ex-felons and ex-drug addicts, would you start a moving company? Why not? We have experience moving your valuables. No, seriously. Only now we carry it out the front door rather than out the window, and we deliver it to the other side. I say it tongue-in-cheek. But think about that. It's a moving company. In 2018, we were at the Grand America in the Grand Ballroom. We won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year. The ex-felons and ex-drug addicts won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year with a moving company ran by ex-felons and ex-drug addicts. Wrap your mind around that. Huh? Is that incredible? You should have seen it when we were there. 1,200 people, black tie event, all the lights. It was incredible when they called out the Other Side Academy. And we had a bunch of our students there too. We belong there. We have 2 thrift boutiques. Now, when you think of thrift store, you think Goodwill DI, right? Goodwill DI, go in, it's not very nice. It's kind of, you don't get any customer service. There's stuff all over the floor. I challenge you to go to one of our thrift stores on State Street in Murray or 1333rd in Mill Creek. You'll walk in and you'll stop. You'll look and you'll walk back out to look at the signage to make sure you didn't go into Nordstrom's. They're that nice. Our thrift stores, #1 rated thrift stores in Salt Lake City. So the moving company, the thrift stores, Mike touched on the construction company, right, that we have, the Other Side Builders, and now we've purchased another warehouse where we're going to, about a 40,000 square foot warehouse where we're going to do crated storage. Moving company, storage, thrift store. Most people who move need storage. Lots of people who move have stuff they don't need and they want to give it away. So all 3 of them fit nicely together. But the reason why that's important is this. When I go to jail, who's paying for me? You are, the taxpayer. If I go to jail, who's paying for me? When I go to prison, who's paying for me? You, the taxpayer? If I go to a program that I'm not self-paying, who's paying for me? You are. Why should you pay for my mistakes? Forget what you've learned over the last couple of decades. Why should you pay for my mistakes? The fascinating thing at the Other Side Academy is the minute you get there, whether you walk in off the street or we interview you in jail and you come from jail and you get there, the day you get there, you become part of the solution, not part of the problem. The social enterprises generate all of the revenue so we can continue to do the work that we're doing without charging anybody anything to be there. We don't take any money from the government, like I mentioned earlier. Does that sound fascinating to you? And how do we do it? It's incredible. One of the reasons why it's so important is at the Other Side Academy, we truly believe that drug addiction is not the problem. When I told you my story, what do you think I had a bigger problem with, drugs or criminal behavior? It was criminal behavior. And even if you take the drugs away from me and get me clean and sober, like when I was in jail or prison and I was clean and I was sober, I was still a criminal. At the Other Side Academy, if you come to us, who in here knows someone who's been a drug addict? Anybody? I mean, family, friend, brother, sister, somebody. Were they liars? Cheaters? When you go to jail, it's not because we're singing too loud in the church choir. We're liars, cheaters, thieves, manipulators, self-centered, self-seeking, emotionally, verbally, and sometimes physically violent. That's why we go to jail. So if you go someplace and all they talk about is clean and sober, clean and sober, clean and sober, who cares? If you go there and get clean and sober, but you don't change those behaviors, you'll leave and you'll use again. Does that make sense? We focus on behaviors, and it's all about accountability. We have no doctors, no counselors, and no therapists. Think about it. There's a couple buildings in downtown Salt Lake City with over 100 ex-felons and ex-drug addicts living on property. No doctors, no counselors, no therapists. Is that amazing? We've been open since 2015. Every single one of my students is on adult parole and probation, or AP&P. Every one of them. They either come from jail, they're on AP&P, or they come in, we interview them, we find out they got a whole bunch of cases trailing them, and we get them to all their court cases, and they get put on AP&P. We have never, not once, given a dirty drug test to adult parole and probation. Not one time. Go online, look it up, all the facts are there. It's absolutely remarkable. And the reason why we're able to do it is because of the peer accountability. It's peer-to-peer feedback. It has nothing to do with drug addiction. It's all about peer-to-peer feedback. And we have managed to learn how to run world-class organizations, best in class, with ex-felons and ex-drug addicts. And the reason why it's so important that we don't have doctors, counselors, and therapists, as well-intentioned as they are, because they are. When people become doctors and counselors and therapists, they want to help us. They really do. That's their intent. They're wonderful human beings. But their hands are tied because they only have us for, 30 days or, 20 seconds in comparison to how long we were doing it. But what happens is it becomes the doctor, counselor, or therapist trying to fix the broken person, right? They're trying to fix the broken person. Okay, how you feeling today? What's going on? But the difference with us is it's all peer feedback. And the reason why that's important is I'll just give you an example. If you think for 1 minute that Dave Durocher, after 27 years of drug addiction and going in and out of jail and prison for most of my adult life, that a therapist is going to sit down in front of me who's never been a drug addict, never lived on the street, never been to jail, never been to prison, is going to connect with me on a visceral level, heart to heart, human to human, and be able to work through some of the things that are going on in my head? Do you really think that's possible? Most of the time? Occasionally you might be able to connection, but there's no experiential overlap. And the best way I can make people understand the disconnect in that is, let's say we take a mother, okay? We'll use my wife, who's had some kids, 3 to be exact. And I take delivery of the baby, and I cut the umbilical cord, and I give that baby its first breath as a doctor. If I ever try to tell her what it's like to give birth, I'm a fool. I only know what it feels like, what it looks like, what the sensation is for me as a person delivering the baby. But I have no idea what it's like for a mom. So if you've never walked a mile in our shoes, if you've never been a drug addict, lived on the streets, been to jail or prison, you only know what you think you know. And sometimes that can be dangerous. And people who don't get it don't get that they don't get it. So the reason why therapeutic communities work so well, the reason why our success rate is through the roof, why 80% of our students who stay 2.5 years have an 80% success rate of not recidivating, is because of that model. And the other reason is because it's long. You get to practice doing the right thing every day. Get up, go to work, have a good attitude, tell the truth, come home, take care of your responsibilities, go to bed, get up the next day and do it again. And you can do it for hundreds, if not thousands of days in a row like I did, until it becomes who you are, not just what you do. Where other programs, I think, fall short, not just in the amount of time that you're there, is you don't get a chance to practice what it is they're trying to teach you. Does that make sense? And at the Other Side Academy, we do. And work becomes the petri dish. Those social enterprises that I talked about. Let me tell you something. I'll be in jail on, not because I'm going to get busted, but I go to jail on Monday at Summit County up in Park City to do some presentations to some inmates. Last week I was in Utah County. Pre-COVID, I went to all the prisons all over Utah. And I'll go in and talk to groups just like this of inmates. And I'll ask them all the time, how many people in here know how to work? I'm asking you guys, who knows how to work? And I'll tell them, all you're liars. And I can get away with that because I am them, just farther removed. And I tell them, if you knew how to work, that's where you'd be. Where are you today? In jail? That's what you know how to do. Where are you today? In jail? That's what you know how to do. And I'll point a few people out and I'll go, so what do you do for a living? Guy who knows how to work. Oh, you're a carpenter? What are you building in your cell? And you, what do you do? Oh, you're a mechanic, changing a transmission today? And how about you, buddy? Oh, I'm a culinary artist. Oh, you're cooking some top ramen in your cell. Matter of fact, you guys who have real skills should be ashamed of yourselves because you don't know how to apply them. If you knew how to work, that's where you'd be. Matter of fact, most of us have had more jobs than we can count. We can get them, we just don't know how to keep them because we don't know how to work. We don't know how to get up on time, go to work, be on time, have a good attitude, go to break, come back on time, go to lunch, come back on time, afternoon break, come back on time, punch out at 5, not 4:59, every day, have a good attitude, do as we're asked. Very few inmates know how to do that because if they did, they'd still have their job. So the social enterprises at the Other Side Academy become the Petri dish. Not only do we get to help you with the moral development, right? Teaching the liar, cheater, thief, and manipulator how to tell the truth, how to be accountable, and how to have integrity, but you do it during the workday. That's the piece that's missing in so many other models. It's here you're going to be able to practice something that's really important. Those are the hard skills you need to learn to be able to graduate and reintegrate back into the community as a productive member, right? So that's our model. But the social enterprises, I want you to really think about that. How is it possible that this organization can have those kinds of social enterprises that Mike talked about with such success? Most people would think the opposite, right? When we were getting ready to start, they said it's impossible. You'll never be able to do it. Oh, we've done it in spades. And it's all about the feedback. It's about the peer feedback. And I'm not going to get into the weeds about how we do that, but it really is important because what we don't do is we don't let anybody get away with anything. We call each other on our behaviors every step of the way, and sometimes it's in very colorful vernacular. But we're not going to let people get away with anything. We're going to hold them accountable. That make sense? Any questions? No questions? Yes, sir.
What are some ways you found to keep yourself accountable and not using others?
To keep me accountable? Yeah. So at the Other Side Academy, what we do, the model really is, it's called games, right? And it's not checkers or pinochle or anything like that. Tuesday nights and Friday nights, all of the students, 20 people will be sitting in a circle in this room, 20 people in this room, until everybody's in a game. And that's the forum for people to call each other on their behaviors. I have to go to games too. From the person who got there today to the executive director, we're all held to the same standard. So if I've done something wrong, didn't put the toilet seat down, threw something in the trash, winked at the girl, it doesn't matter what it is. No matter what it is, a student can drop a slip on me and take me into a game. And they can call me on the carpet. And I want you to think about this. When was the last time you could take your boss into a room full of his peers and call him or her on the carpet in front of them and have a job on Monday? Think about that dynamic. But all of us are held to the same standard. Plus, a couple of weeks ago with my staff, I had a Saturday morning game and I brought them in my office and I closed the door and I said, this is not a game with me playing with you. This is an opportunity for you guys to play the game with me. And I think a true leader, I went in and said, the forum's open, play the game with me. Because I want to make sure that I am the best leader I can be. What can I do differently? What am I doing wrong? And I allowed them to play the game with me. That's how I hold myself accountable.
What's the age range for the students?
18 to healthy. So you have to be an adult and you have to be healthy. But a couple of the hard stops, a couple of the people that we won't take, sex offenders of any kind, for whatever reason. We just believe that they probably require a different kind of help than we're capable of giving them, and people who have committed arson. And those who are truly dual diagnosed. Half of my students have had anxiety, depression, bipolar, and who hasn't been ADHD and a few others, right? So, but what happens is this. Many of my students, when I interview them, because if you really are dual diagnosis, if you've got psychosis or something like that, we're not the place because we don't have any medical staff. But when I do interviews in jail, it's fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, we're creating drug addicts in jail. I'll show you why. I could go to jail tonight, and I'll bet you my salary to 10 of yours that if I went to jail today, I could be on 4 medications tonight. I know exactly what to tell the doctor, and that's what drug addicts do. They go to jail, then they put out the medical slip, then they get to see the doctor, and they tell the doctor that they're hearing voices, they're a danger to themselves, and the doctor gives them all these psych meds. So when I go do an interview in jail, I'll often ask somebody, ever been diagnosed with mental health issues? Depression and anxiety. When I'm out there ripping and running from the cops, do you think I suffer from anxiety? It's situational. When I get busted and now I'm in jail, I'm depressed. It's situational. We're putting everybody on medications. I'll interview them. I'll ask them if they're on medications. They'll say yes. Well, are they working? Do they help? No. Well, then why do you take them? Well, I cheek them and I take them back and I trade them for coffee or I trade them for soups or they help me sleep. But are they helping with the symptoms? I don't have any symptoms. We are literally turning inmates into drug addicts in jail. So I tell them, well, you can't come to the Other Side Academy if you're on medication. They go back to the doctor. They get a medical clearance, right? 2 weeks ago, the doctor put them on it. They just took them off with a medical clearance. Why did they put them on to begin with? So those are the hard stops. People who truly need medical attention, arsonists, and sex offenders.
How old is your oldest student?
My oldest student is 55 years old. Yes, sir.
Why arsonist?
If somebody is burning properties or there might be people in them because that's what they enjoy doing, we're not the place for them. That's kind of another thing that probably requires a specific kind of help. But your run-of-the-mill drug addict who's dealing drugs or stealing stuff to support their habit, that all fits within our realm of people we'll take. But people who commit arson for sport, we're not interested in them.
I'm wondering if they want to see a game played the way we play it in our organization, top to bottom, because it influences us.
You guys want to see a game played? Well, there's two things. There's the interview process. Who wants to see what an interview looks like? The interview can be very robust. What we don't do is sit down with an application and go, here's an application, fill this out online, and we'll get back to you, right? Come in for an interview, go, did you graduate high school? That's not the interview. The interview is very robust, to say the least, right? But you have to remember who we're dealing with. And how many times has my average student been arrested? I mentioned it earlier. How many times? 25 times. I have, of the 100 students currently there, I have a small number of people who have never been arrested. I have some over 50, right? They're frequent flyers. But the aggregate total was like 25.6. So oftentimes in the interview, can we talk about this, Mike? Yeah. Oftentimes in the interview, this is really important. We'll ask them some really hard questions. And we are going to tell you the truth. We are going to tell it to you in a way you've probably never heard it before. Because we're not going to soft pedal. Oh, God, it's not your fault. It's somebody else's fault. It's too bad those cops got there when you were there, and it's not your fault to use drugs and commit crimes. It's because it was a crime of necessity. You needed the money to support your habit. That's not our model. But it's a lot of people's model, right? But our interview goes like this. You write us a letter from the county jail. We go to the county jail. You've asked for some help. We interview you, right? We'll sit down, ask you your name, where are you from, tell us about your family, mom and dad still in the picture, when did you start using, gang affiliate. We'll ask a whole myriad of questions. Then we'll get to the important stuff. Do you have kids? 3. 3? You have 3 kids. Do you love them? Well, you said, of course. She said, of course I love them. She's been to jail 34 times. She's on her way to prison for her 5th prison term. She's got 3 kids, 6, 8, and 10. I asked her if she loved her kids. She said, yes, I love them. They mean everything to me. How in the heck would you treat them if you hated them? If you've been arrested 35 times, you don't have your kids. So if you're in jail, somebody else is raising your kids. Am I right or wrong? If you're in jail, somebody else is doing your job because you are in. I've got 3 boys. My oldest is 36. There was a 20-year span. No letters, no phone calls, no contact. If you are going in and out of jail and prison, you're not a parent. Somebody else is doing your job. So I asked her, do you love your kids? Yes, I love my kids. How would you treat them if you hated them? Now, what did I say in there that wasn't true? And do we get judged on what we say or what we do? What do we get judged on, our actions or our words? Now, her actions say otherwise. But we believe, same with me, that we want to. We just don't know how. Sometimes in the interview, 2 things happen usually. They start to tear up, the lip starts to quiver, and they go, gosh, I've never had it said to me like that before. I have never heard someone put it in those words. You're right. You're right. I do need to I need to redefine what that word means. Or they'll yell at me through the glass, Dave, you're crazy. And they might be right, but they don't get to have that conversation with me because I'm there interviewing them. And whether I'm crazy or not, it's a completely different conversation. But okay, Mandy, no problem, sweetheart, no problem. Just stay right where you're at. Mother of the Year, trophy's on the way. It's in the mail, right? Can I ask you one more question? Do you bring your kids to jail to visit you? Twice a month, she brings her kids to jail to visit her. Twice a month. You bring your kids to this place. You subject them to the scrutiny coming through here. They've got to see the inmates, the cops, and go, you bring your kids here. Then they have a conversation through the glass. And little Bobby's laughing with mommy or daddy, and he's having a good time, and he's yucking it up. Then he goes to school on Monday, and he tells his friends how cool his mom is. Fast forward to 10 years. Where's Bobby end up? Where's he end up? Who taught it to him? Thought she loved him. It's really important to redefine the word. Because if we're drug addicts and criminals and we're in jail, it's impossible to love somebody else if you don't know how to love yourself. You're not going to be a good parent if you can't be a good human being. It's impossible. You can't do both. But once you become a good human being, you'll inherently become a good parent, a good sibling, a good husband, a good wife, a good son, a good daughter. So the interview process is really robust. But I want to challenge you. What did I say in the interview that wasn't true? Anything? Right. How would you treat him if you hated him? Now, we truly don't believe that she hates her kids, but she doesn't know how to love them. Because love is not a word. Love is an action. And the true definition of love is sacrifice. And if you go to jail 35 times and you go to prison 5 times, you haven't sacrificed for them. Whoever's raising them is sacrificing for them. You've chosen bad dope and bad boys over your kids. That's the truth. So that's an interview process. Any questions? Yes.
When you're interviewing these people and talking to people that have mental health diagnoses and things like that, what percentage of the people that you talk to think you just need this, what you have, as opposed to all the other stuff?
You know, I think a lot of people that aren't in jail or prison could benefit from coming to the Other Side Academy because we're so structured, so strict, and we live at such a high standard. But I think most people who go to jail or prison, the vast majority don't have mental health issues. Some of them do, and if they do, then we won't take them. There's many other places that will help them. But we'll make that decision in the interview as to whether or not we can. And 99.9% of the time when we take somebody and we accept them and they come to us, they do fine. They really do. And what people have to learn to do, especially drug addicts, and if you've never been one, it's hard for you to imagine, but we're emotional infants, literally emotional infants. We might be 38 like I was when I got to Delancey Street, but I was 12 years old emotionally. And if I only stayed 2 years, I had like 26 years, a 26-year gap between my emotional age and my chronological age to close that gap. That's why I stayed 8.5 years. I needed to grow up. So most people need to learn, if they don't have mental health issues, to just deal with their emotions, learn how to do it, learn how to understand them, learn how to recognize them, and learn how to work through them. And that's what's so fascinating about the Other Side Academy is we give you the opportunity to learn that over a long period of time. There was somebody else with a hand up? Yep.
If you were able to have a conversation with 12-year-old Dave, what would you tell him?
To have a conversation with 12-year-old Dave. I think the older I got, the smarter my parents became. And in spite of the fact that my dad made a lot of mistakes when I was being raised, I don't think he realized he was making those mistakes. There's not like a parenting book, 101 to follow. And he made some mistakes along the way. But as I got older and I wasn't a kid anymore and I was 18, 19, 20, it was no longer his fault, it was mine because I can't control the cards I was dealt as a kid, but I can reshuffle them as an adult. And I think what I need to do is, if there was a message to be sent, is listen to the people that care about you. Heed their advice, because it's a whole lot easier to raise good kids than to fix broken men. So the revenue of our social enterprises. This year, our moving company is going to do about $2.5 million. Pretty good, huh? That's not bad. Our thrift stores are going to do about $2 million, maybe 2.1. Our construction company, about $500,000, probably somewhere in that range. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to land. But of all the students that were there, if we counted the cumulative time that they should be in prison, since the time we opened, we've saved the state 600 years of incarceration. At about $50,000 a year, that's about $30 million we've saved the state of Utah. But that's just the financial piece. When you talk about the lives that we're able to affect, when you take the most broken in our population, not the 18-year-old who just started using 2 years ago who needs the 30, 60, 90-day model, but the guy who's 38 who's been doing it his whole life, and be able to completely turn them around, that ripple effect is incredible. You can't even quantify that. Any other questions? Mike?
So, the Other Side Academy's businesses are known for absolute phenomenal service and the highest ratings in every category. How do you deliver that service like that?
The Other Side Academy's social enterprises are the top in class, is what he's saying. Well, if they don't do the right thing, we take them out back and we flog them. That's how we do it. The peer accountability. Let's say I'm on a move. Me and Mike are on a move, and we have a couch, and I bump the wall. We own that mistake. We go to the owner. Hey, Bob, we just bumped your wall. How would you like us to? We can take care of it. We can have someone come out and take care of it. We own every mistake that we make. And if Mike and I are out on that move, and I bump that wall, and him and I don't say anything, right, and he's with us, and he comes home and goes to the crew boss and says, Mike and Dave were carrying that couch, they bumped the wall, they didn't say anything to the customer, we are in a lot of trouble. There's consequences, and then in games, we're going to get blasted. Mike's going to get blasted, I'm going to get blasted, because I wasn't accountable. We did not, and the reason why Mike and I are going to get blasted, and the reason why he didn't say anything when I bumped the wall is because we're already dirty together. Otherwise, he would have pulled me up and he would have said something. So every social enterprise has that built in, the accountability component. No matter what it is, at the thrift store, on the moving company, we're constantly pulling. The three things we do: we pull each other up, we pass the information, we play the game. What's your name? Adam? Adam threw something in the trash. Adam, we don't throw stuff here. Adam passed a note to a girl. Hey, what are you doing? We don't do that stuff here. I pulled him up. That's a pull-up, right? And that is whether you're in the house, whether you're on the moving company, whether you're at the thrift store, it doesn't matter where it is. There's no lag time. We pull you up. Then whoever's in charge of you. There's 100 people in the house. There's about 10 tribes. There's a tribe leader. Whoever your tribe leader is, I go to him. What's your name? Hunter. I pulled Adam up today because he threw something in the trash, and I pulled Adam up today because he passed a note to a girl. The reason why we do that is we don't know if 8 other people, if he's done it already. So then I drop a slip in the box, and I take him to a game. And that game, when we're in that game, it's, Adam, what the heck is wrong with you? You know we don't throw stuff here. What if you hit somebody with that piece of metal? And who do you think you are passing a note to a girl? That girl's got 10 years over her head. In that note, you said, Dear Susie, I really like you. I care about you. If you cared about her, you'd have left her alone. What if she gets the note and you guys split together and she goes back to prison for 10 years? How selfish can you be? We take him to games. So to answer Mike's question, it doesn't matter what social enterprise you're in, doesn't matter what department you're in, we're going to pull you up, we're going to pass the information, you're going to get the game played with you. Guess what that does to the house? Man, does it stay tight. And when I pull you up, and when I pass that information, and when I play the game with you, guess what that does for me? It sets my boundaries. It tells everybody in the house that I'm not going to let you do that stuff. I'm going to pull you up, I'm going to pass the information, and I'm going to play the game with you. Now, if I do something wrong, what does that make me? Who said it? It teaches you to have boundaries. It teaches you to speak up. It teaches you to have a voice. And besides, if that moving company, what was your name? Hunter, if that moving company was yours, it was your moving company, you worked for 10 years to build it into what it is today. Blood, sweat, and tears, sweat equity, you're out there every day, and somebody's driving that truck while they're under the influence of alcohol, would you want somebody to say something? Right, wouldn't you? But it's fascinating what we do in the real world. If it was our business, we'd want somebody to say something. But when it's not our business and we see something, we put on blinders. We don't want to say anything. We don't want to be the bad guy. But if we're in a program and you're doing something wrong, if I go to a program and I'm doing something wrong and people are letting me get away with it, are they helping me or hurting me? So we teach people 200% accountability. Be 100% accountable for yourself and be 100% accountable for everybody else. And if you see something, say something. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. Remember when Harvey Weinstein was having all those young kids marched up to his room? We don't even know how many were involved. How many lives were destroyed because nobody said anything? Back when Wells Fargo was opening up all those fictitious accounts to make millions of dollars, nobody said anything. A couple years ago, there was a Super Bowl. Tom Brady was in it. He's my favorite quarterback. I love him. Halftime, he goes to the equipment manager, and he asked the equipment manager to let some air out of the football because it was really cold. It'd be easier to throw. He won the game. We don't know whether he'd have won it or not. People are beholden to one of two things. Who can tell me what they are? Power or truth. It's really, really important that we teach our students to be emboldened to truth. Do what's right. The reason why all those things happen is because people their power is the thing. That's what they're afraid of, is power. That's what they're beholden to, power, not truth. We teach them to be beholden to truth. So we tell the truth. We call each other on our behaviors. That's how we're able to do it.
What does the first week within the academy look like for students?
So it's set up in 4 stages. What does the first week look like? Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Freshman is usually there from day 1 to about 4 months. So you'll be a freshman. It could be 2 months to 4 months, but you won't be a freshman for anything less than that. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Your first day, we attach a welcomer to you, right? And as a freshman, you stay in the house. Laundry, dishes, cleaning, sweeping, mopping, whatever it is. As we, as an organization, get a chance to know you and see where you need your help. If you're a guy 4 months later that's proven, it's like, this guy passes information, he plays the game, he seems pretty trustworthy, we might put you on the moving company. If you exhibit those behaviors but you're lazy, we might put you on the moving company. It's fascinating. We take some of the guys that are really lazy, and we got the #1 rated moving company in the state, put them on the moving company, and 6 months later, they are monsters. Work ethic through the roof. So the first 4 months give us a chance to get to know the student. Where do they need their help? Where will they best fit in? If you're a mechanic, odds are we won't put you in auto body or our mechanic shop. Maybe we'll put you in corporate development. Maybe we'll put you in the kitchen and teach you something else so you don't get comfortable. Eventually you might end up there, but it just depends. But your first few days there, you just acclimate in. Get up, go to work, follow simple instructions. Your peers are telling you the do's and the don'ts. That's what it looks like. But really, all the Other Side Academy is, all we are at the Other Side Academy is a micro community getting you ready for the macro community. Just like you guys, we get up in the morning, brush our teeth, use the restroom, get dressed, go to breakfast, go to work, come home, take care of our responsibilities. Isn't that what you guys do every day? We do the same thing, but we give the students the opportunity to do it for hundreds, if not thousands of days in a row until they recalibrate their moral compass, become decent human beings, and then they're ready to reintegrate back into the community.
Okay. One more question.
I'm sure you get lots of people that are just broken and they have no hope. How do you spark that hope in someone that doesn't have any?
Yeah. How do we spark the hope when people don't have it? We show them through our own actions. A lot of people when they come to us, including myself when I got to Delancey Street, I didn't have any self-esteem. But I didn't have any reason to have any self-esteem. I hadn't done anything esteemable. So as soon as you get there, right, we give you tasks, we give you chores, we give you a job that you're going to do. And the more you do, the better you do, the more advancement you get, and the faster your advancement. And then you get other perks that come along with it. You might become a tribe leader, a tribe aide, or a barber, and that doesn't mean someone who cuts hair, but someone who's in charge of people. There's a number of things that we give you. We show you through our own actions. And when you get there, you look at my staff, myself, Chris, Sharon. The names don't mean anything to you, but we've all been there and done that. Just so you know, all of us live on property. So to answer your question, when you see us, all of my staff, every day, we don't punch in at 8 o'clock in the morning, we don't punch out at 5 o'clock, we're there every single day. And the reason why that's important is this. If you're a mom and a dad and you have 5 kids and you're never home, what do the kids do? What do the kids do? They run amok. They're going to do whatever they want, right? We're 100. We have 100 kids in adult bodies. But I got 20 staff. We're the parents. We have to be there. So we're there 24/7. We actually live on property. So the minute they see us, and they see us bought in, that starts to build hope in them.
I want to say thank you to Dave. Come bring that out, Amanda. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. We have ice cream in the back, and we're really are grateful for what Dave has told us today.